It started with a single, sharp slap in a public park. That one sound turned a perfect Saturday afternoon into the worst mistake 2 police officers would ever make. The air at Meadowbrook Park was filled with the sounds of pure joy, kids screaming with laughter, families calling out to each other. Sunlight filtered through the old oak trees, painting the picnic blankets in warm patches of gold. Maya Reed sat on one of those blankets, watching her 7-year-old son, Leo, soar on the swings. He pumped his little legs, trying to touch the sky. "Mommy, look, am I the highest?" he yelled, his voice full of pride. Maya gave him a big wave and a smile. "I see you, superstar. Just don't do a backflip up there." Maya looked like any other mom enjoying a day off. Jeans, a simple t-shirt, and tired eyes. And that's exactly how she wanted it. On her days off, she was just Maya. But even when she was just Mom, her training never fully shut down. Her eyes were always scanning, always cataloging, a habit burned into her brain. And that's when she saw them. Across the field, near the basketball courts, 2 uniformed officers had cornered a group of 4 teenagers. They couldn't have been much older than Leo's babysitter. Just kids, with backpacks and water bottles, looking like they'd just come from a hike. But this wasn't a friendly chat. You could feel the tension in the air. The teens were huddled together, shifting their weight nervously from foot to foot. One officer, a big guy with a jaw set like concrete, was slicing the air with his hands as he spoke. He was practically vibrating with aggression. His partner circled behind the kids like a shark, his arms crossed tight, daring anyone in the park to look too long. Just then, Leo ran over to grab a juice box. "Mom, can I go play with the kids on the slide?" he asked. "Not right now, sweetie." "Stay close to me," Maya said, her voice soft, but her eyes were locked on the scene unfolding across the grass. Police in a park wasn't strange, but this energy was different. It was the same toxic energy she'd felt in tense interrogation rooms, the kind that came just before everything went wrong. This wasn't a routine stop. This was a powder keg, and someone was about to light the fuse. A woman on a nearby blanket whispered to her husband, "What are they doing to those kids?" They weren't causing any trouble. The man just shook his head and quietly lifted his phone, pressing record. Maya's jaw clenched. She took a slow, deep breath, trying to stay calm for Leo. He was too young to understand how a beautiful day could turn ugly in a heartbeat. But Maya couldn't just sit there and watch. She knew that when someone in power decides to abuse it, things get bad, fast. If no one said anything, those kids might end their Saturday in the back of a police car for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Still, she told herself it wasn't her fight. Not yet. But a cold knot of dread was forming in her stomach. That line was about to be crossed. Trying to distract herself, she focused on Leo, who was now lining up crackers on the blanket, creating a little city. "Look, Mom, I'm building a whole town," he said, his innocent voice a stark contrast to the tension she felt. She forced a weak smile. "Just don't eat all the buildings before I get one," she joked. He giggled, and for a second the park felt normal again. But her eyes shot back to the officers. The big one was in the kid's personal space now, his posture screaming intimidation. The other one just paced, watching, waiting. It was a language Maya understood all too well. Every move they made was a signal, and every signal was wrong. This was supposed to be her day off. When she was with her son, she was supposed to leave the badge, the training, and the weight of her job as an FBI agent behind. Today, she was just a mom. But that part of her brain never slept. The part that saw the nervous tremor in a teenager's hand, or the way an officer's thumb kept brushing the holster of his weapon. She whispered to the sky, "Please, not today. Don't let this happen today." A football sailed through the air, and a dad yelled, "Heads up!" Leo, laughing, chased after it. Maya stood up, using the moment to get a better look. She could see the boy in the red hoodie talking, and though she couldn't hear him, she could read his lips perfectly. "We didn't do anything." His friend stood with his hands held up, palms open, a clear sign of surrender. But the officer's voice boomed across the park, sharp and ugly. "You think this is a joke? Empty your pockets, now!" Maya's heart started pounding. Leo was now happily tossing the football back, completely oblivious to the storm that was about to break. She had to keep him out of this. The last place she wanted her son was anywhere near the blast radius when this thing blew up. Other people were noticing now. Phones were coming out, a field of tiny glass eyes all aimed at the confrontation. An old woman on a bench prayed under her breath, "Lord, have mercy on those children." Maya looked at the lead officer's face and saw it, the tight mouth, the dead eyes. It was the look of a man who had already passed judgment, the look of a man who didn't care about the truth. That look had destroyed countless lives. And then, a small hand tugged on hers. "Mommy," Leo asked, "why are those men so angry?" Her heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. She knelt down to his level. "They're supposed to be helpers, honey." But sometimes the helpers forget how to be kind. Leo's brow furrowed. "Are the kids in trouble?" Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. "The men in the uniforms might be, if they're not careful." She knew in that instant she couldn't be a bystander anymore. The time for staying quiet was over. She stood up, her focus now entirely on the officers. The energy had shifted from bad to worse. One officer was now shouting, his hand resting on his weapon. Maya never wanted to get involved, but now she had no choice. The shouts got louder. The boy in the red hoodie was pleading, his voice cracking with fear. "I swear I didn't take anything." The tall officer loomed over him, a predator cornering its prey. "Then you've got nothing to hide?" Pockets. Now. The kids were paralyzed with fear. This wasn't about finding stolen goods. It was a pure power trip. A raw display of dominance meant to humiliate and intimidate them, and everyone knew it. One of the boys, trembling, slowly reached for his phone in his pocket. That was the only excuse the second officer needed. "Hands where I can see 'em!" he screamed, lunging forward and viciously yanking the boy's arm. The kid cried out in pain. A shockwave went through the park. All the happy chatter died. Every phone was now recording. Maya's blood ran cold. She took a few steps forward, leaving Leo by the blanket. Her eyes flashed back to him. He was watching, his face a mask of confusion. "Leo, stay right there," she called, her voice steady. "Don't move." She wasn't Agent Reed in that moment. She was Leo's mom, and the mother bear inside her refused to stand by and watch another mother's child be bullied and broken by men who had forgotten what their uniform was supposed to stand for. "Excuse me, officers," Maya said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the tension with the sharpness of a surgeon's scalpel. Both men snapped their heads toward her. "Ma'am, this is official police business. Go back to your picnic," the tall one grunted. Maya didn't move an inch. "It became my business when you started treating children like criminals. I haven't seen them do a single thing wrong." The second officer actually laughed, a short, ugly sound. "Lady, you need to back off before you become a part of this." A collective gasp went through the crowd. Phones were held higher. Maya could feel hundreds of eyes on her. Her training told her to de-escalate, to talk them down. But the human being in her, the mother in her, refused to back down. "Let the boy go," she said, her voice dropping, laced with a warning. The taller officer stepped toward her, trying to use his size to intimidate her. "This is your last warning. Walk away." Maya didn't even blink. Suddenly, a man in the crowd yelled out, "She's right! Leave those kids alone!" More voices joined in. The officers were losing control of the narrative, and they knew it. But instead of backing down, the second officer, the one with the cruel streak, let go of the boy and turned his rage entirely on Maya. He got right in her face, jabbing a finger at her. "You want to interfere?" "Fine." And then, before anyone could stop him, his hand flew up and he slapped her hard across the face. The sound cracked through the park like a whip. A child screamed, and across the field, Leo's terrified voice cried out the one word that shattered Maya's heart. "MOM!" The force of the slap snapped Maya's head to the side, but her feet were planted like roots. She didn't fall. She didn't even cry out. She slowly straightened up, raised a hand to her stinging cheek, and locked her eyes on the officer's smug face. He thought he had just taught her a lesson. He had no idea he'd just ended his own career. A heavy, electric silence fell over the park. Parents grabbed their children. Every single person was frozen, staring in disbelief. Leo's frantic cry echoed in the stillness. "Mommy!" He started running toward her, but Maya held up a hand, stopping him in his tracks. "Stay there, Leo!" she commanded, her voice ringing with an authority he'd never heard before. "Do not move!" Her son froze, his little body trembling. He'd never seen anyone lay a hand on his mother. The officer who hit her just smirked. "See? That's what you get for sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." The crowd erupted. "You can't do that!" a woman screamed. "It's all on video, you psycho!" yelled another man. The taller officer, finally sensing how badly things were going, tried to step in. "All right, everybody calm down. This is a private matter." Maya's voice, though quiet, was ice cold. "You just hit a mother in front of her 7-year-old son. You think that's a private matter? You just made a mistake that will follow you for the rest of your life." The officer sneered. "Lady, you have no idea who you're messing with." Maya took a small step forward, her eyes burning into his. "No, you have no idea." The taller officer tried to threaten her. "Ma'am, walk away now, or you will be arrested for obstruction of justice." A tiny, dangerous smile played on Maya's lips. "Arrest me? For what? For standing in a public park and telling you not to assault children?" Her voice hardened. "Go ahead. Try it." The officers looked at each other, a flicker of panic in their eyes. The crowd was turning on them, but their pride was too big to let them back down. The shorter officer lunged for her arm, and that's when years of FBI training took over. In one fluid, lightning-fast motion, Maya sidestepped, twisted his wrist, and broke his grip, sending him stumbling backward. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. "I am not helpless." The crowd gasped. The officer's face turned beet red. "You assaulted me!" he screamed. "No," Maya said, her voice cutting through his lies. "I defended myself after you assaulted me. There's a big difference." The taller officer grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, send backup to Meadowbrook Park. We have an assault on an officer." Maya raised her voice for everyone to hear. "You really want to play this game? There are 50 phones recording you right now. Every single person here knows you're lying." The crowd roared in agreement, holding their phones up like shields. "We saw everything," a teenager yelled. Leo's little voice cut through the noise, thick with tears. "Mommy, please, I'm scared." Maya's heart broke for him, but she couldn't look away from the officers. "I'll be right there, baby," she called out. "Mommy just has to finish this." Her chilling calm was unnerving them. She took a deep breath and delivered the line that would detonate their world. "You two have no clue who you just put your hands on." The officer barked back, "Just some loudmouth who doesn't know her place." Maya tilted her head. "Is that right?" She reached into her back pocket, slow and deliberate, making sure everyone could see her hands. She pulled out her wallet, flipped it open, and held up the shining gold badge. FBI. Dead. Silence. Then, the explosion. "She's FBI? Oh my God, he hit a federal agent." The color drained from the taller officer's face. The one who slapped her looked like he'd seen a ghost. Maya's voice was quiet, but it echoed across the entire park. "You just assaulted a federal agent, on camera, in front of her child." Even Leo went quiet, watching in awe as the power shifted so completely. The officer stammered, No way. You're lying." Maya stepped toward him, the badge still held high, her eyes like fire. "Do I look like I'm lying?" The sunlight glinted off the badge, and in that moment, everyone knew this was far from over. This was just the beginning of the storm. Maya let the silence hang in the air, her arms steady, her gaze burning a hole through the officer who hit her. "So, are you going to keep calling me a loudmouth mom? Or would you like to rephrase that for a federal agent?" The man's entire body seemed to deflate. His arrogant mask crumbled, leaving behind a pathetic, terrified man. "Mommy, what's going on?" Leo's small voice called out. Maya glanced back at her son, her expression softening for just a second. "It's okay, sweetie. Mommy's handling it." Then her focus snapped back to the officers like a laser. She tucked her badge away, but it didn't matter. The entire park now knew who was in charge. "Let me make this simple for you," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "You harassed a group of children. You assaulted a citizen who questioned you, and in doing so you assaulted a federal officer. That's not just a bad day at the office, that's the end of your careers." The taller officer tried to salvage the situation. "Look, maybe this was just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Maya shot back, her voice dripping with contempt. "Your partner put his hands on me because I asked him to stop hurting a child. And you stood there and watched. There is no misunderstanding that." The guilty officer finally spoke. We didn't know who you were." Maya's eyes narrowed into slits. "And that's the problem, isn't it? If I was just a regular mom, this would have been okay. It's fine to assault a woman in front of her son, as long as she's not a Fed. Is that what you're telling me?" The teenagers she had defended were staring at Maya like she was a superhero. The boy in the red hoodie whispered to his friends, "She's a real-life hero." Maya locked eyes with the officer again. "You made a choice today. You chose to be a bully because you thought a badge gave you a free pass. You forgot that true authority comes with accountability." The taller officer held his hands up in surrender. Okay. Let's all just take a breath." "You're right," Maya said, her voice dangerously calm. "You should take a very deep breath, because you're going to need it when you're explaining this to your supervisor, Internal Affairs, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Your career's just ended. The only question now is how much worse you want to make this for yourselves." "Mom, please come back now," Leo called, his voice trembling. "Almost done, honey," she called back, her heart aching for him. She turned back to the officers, her voice a low growl. "So, you can stand here and wait for your supervisor, who is already on his way. Or you can try to run. Either way, this ends badly for you." The shorter officer looked like he was going to be sick. The taller one was already muttering into his radio. Maya simply folded her arms and stood her ground, a silent, immovable force of justice. Faint sirens grew louder in the distance. This was bigger than just two bad cops now. Backup was on the way, and the whole world was about to see what happens when you mess with the wrong mother. 2 more squad cars screeched to a halt, their red and blue lights washing over the stunned crowd. A supervisor, a man with tired eyes and a starched white shirt, stepped out and immediately saw this wasn't a normal call. He saw the sea of cell phones, the two panicked officers, and Maya Reed standing at the center of the storm, unmovable. "What in the hell is going on here?" he demanded. The taller officer immediately started spinning a story. "Sir, these teens were non-compliant, and this woman interfered with our investigation." Maya held up a hand, and he instantly fell silent. "Don't you even start," she warned, before turning to the supervisor. "Your officer decided to put his hands on me. He slapped me in front of my 7-year-old son because I asked him to stop harassing children." She paused, then reached into her pocket once more. "And before you ask me who I am," she presented her credentials. "Special Agent Maya Reed, Federal Bureau of Investigation." A wave of murmurs and gasps rippled through the onlookers. The supervisor's face went pale. He stepped closer. "Agent Reed, is this for real? You want to call it in? Be my guest." "I've got time," Maya replied, her voice flat. The officer who hit her blurted out, "She's lying!" Maya's head snapped toward him. "Be very careful," she said, her voice dangerously low. "Every word you say is digging your hole deeper." The crowd cheered. "That's right." "We all saw it," someone shouted. The supervisor, realizing he was in the middle of a public relations nightmare, tried to take control. "Agent Reed, my deepest apologies. Can we please step aside and discuss this?" "No," Maya said firmly. "We're done with secrets and quiet corners. What you do next, you will do right here in front of everyone. These kids you harassed deserve to see justice. My son deserves to see it. This doesn't get swept under the rug." "Mom, are they going to jail?" Leo asked, his voice suddenly clear in a lull. Maya looked at her son. "The right people will be held accountable, baby. I promise." The supervisor, trapped between policy and the dozens of phone cameras, made his decision. He turned to his officers. "Give me your weapons. Both of you. Now." The officers, defeated, complied. Maya then turned to the crowd. "Thank you all for being witnesses. Thank you for recording. Don't let anyone tell you this doesn't matter. It does." The park, which had been a place of fear moments before, was now filled with a sense of shared victory. As the two officers were escorted away, disgraced, Maya knew the fight was won. But now came the hardest part, explaining the ugliness of the world to the little boy who meant the world to her. Once the sirens faded, the park slowly came back to life. But for Maya, the world had stopped. Leo ran into her arms, burying his face in her shirt. "I was so scared, Mommy," he sobbed. "I thought they were going to take you away." Maya knelt and held him tight, looking him straight in the eyes. "Hey, look at me! No one is ever taking me away from you. I am right here, and I am safe." He sniffled. "But why did he hit you, Mommy? You didn't do anything wrong." The question pierced her heart. "Sometimes, honey, people who are supposed to protect us make very bad choices. They get scared or angry, and they do the wrong thing. What that man did was wrong. It would have been wrong no matter who I was." Leo looked at her, his eyes wide. "But you weren't scared." A small, sad smile touched Maya's lips. "Oh, baby, I was terrified." "But being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you're shaking inside." Leo thought about that for a moment. "You stood up for those kids." "Yes, I did," she said softly. "Because when you see something wrong, you can't just look away. You have to stand up and speak out. That's how we make the world better." His little shoulders straightened. "I want to be brave like you when I grow up." Her chest ached with a mix of pride and sorrow. You already are, Leo. But I hope you grow up in a world where you don't have to be. The teenagers she'd defended walked over, looking grateful and shy. Ma'am, the one in the red hoodie said, thank you. We really thought we were alone. Maya gave them a warm nod. Just remember to stand up for each other. And never let anyone make you feel small. As the teens walked away, she turned back to her son. See? Your voice matters. It always matters. He hugged her again. I'm glad you're my mom, he whispered. Tears welled in her eyes as she kissed his head. I'm glad you're my son. As they packed up their blanket, she knew this day would leave a scar on his memory. But she also knew it had planted a seed. Before they got in the car, she knelt down one last time. Leo, today you saw something ugly, but you also saw that one person's voice can change everything. You saw that truth is more powerful than lies, and courage is stronger than fear. Never forget that. As they drove home, she glanced at him in the rear-view mirror. He was quiet, just watching the world go by, and she whispered more to herself than to him. They'll think twice next time. Maybe, just maybe, because of what happened today, a lot of people would. The lesson from that day in the park was simple. Never let fear silence you, because your voice might just be the one that changes the world.